Hi, my name is Ivana. I'm a current MS3+ student and the student chair of Duke's Curriculum Committee. So I wanted to share some common questions I get from MS1s and MS2s about the third year experience from the student perspective. I'll split this up into 3 sections: common questions I get, what to ask a potential mentor when meeting with them, and things I wish I knew before third year began. I'll start with common questions. Question 1, when should I start looking for a research mentor? So this depends. Some people start earlier or later than others, especially since everyone's really busy during clinical year. So because of that, it's also helpful to start early. It's really reasonable to start looking for a potential mentors sometime during fall semester of MS2 year, and maybe even start meeting with them during this time. Usually, things will slow down a little bit before winter break, and people start to get back up again after the holidays in the spring semester. You don't need to officially have a mentor picked until the end of March MS2 year before MS3 registration, so plan based on that. And the timing of when you want to look for a mentor and when you want to have it approved by becomes earlier if you're planning to go to a different institution to do research, apply for scholarships, or if you want to get a mentor approved who's not already approved. So I'll talk a bit about those later in the video. Question 2. Where should I start when looking for a research mentor? So this will be covered in more detail in some of the other videos, but there's a list of approved mentors on the third year website. So these mentors have specifically signed up for this and are really excited to work with students for their research year. Another thing you can do is reach out to the third year study program directors, which is also on the third year website, and you can talk to them about your research interests. There's also a database that has student feedback about each mentor, talking about previous MS3 specific projects, what people thought of their mentor, and the experience working in that lab. This database is the DMAS, Duke Mentor and Student Database. Another thing you can do is talk to upperclassmen about their projects, research interests, and their own mentors. Also, you can just start looking up your particular research interests and see if there are any Duke researchers studying that particular topic. You can look it up on Google or on Scholars at Duke. You can search by topic of interest. You can also look through MedSpace, which is where the abstracts for the third year research day are stored. So as you start talking to potential mentors, they might introduce you to other people as well based on your interests. So it's really helpful to just start reaching out and get the ball rolling. So now I want to talk about what to ask a potential research mentor. So here are a few important things to think about. So one thing is communication. So a communicative and supportive mentor can really make your third year experience an incredibly positive one. So be sure to pay attention to all of your interactions with your potential mentor because it can tell you a lot about how they will communicate with you during your research year. See how eager they are to potentially have new students in their lab, how quickly they respond to your emails, and maybe even how available they are to meet with you. Feel free to ask them about their specific expectations for your research year, and even ask them for more specifics about how frequently and to what degree they plan to communicate with you during your research year. For example, how often do they meet with students throughout the research year? Are they available to schedule meetings more frequently if you have questions about your work? How much guidance do they give you on different tasks? How often they provide you with feedback on your work? Things like that. And in general, the third year office says a mentor is supposed to meet regularly with students, be available to meet with students in person and online to discuss ideas and issues, work with students on manuscripts or other deliverables, help if you want to attend conferences, provide statistical support, and more. So they should be sure to understand this responsibility. Another thing to look for in a mentor is whether they're a good fit. This is something that really shapes your research year, but it's also something you're in full control of based on what's most important to you. So make sure to articulate your specific research interests to potential mentors to see whether their lab is a good fit for you. Feel free to ask for more details about anything that's important to you. So here are some things to think about or include when talking with them. Whether you want to do a qualitative or quantitative project, whether you want a big versus small lab, whether you want a research mentor that's more versus less hands-on, whether you want to start a project from the ground up versus doing a secondary data analysis, what kind of data you want to collect, whether you want to attend conferences or publish a manuscript, maybe stay on for more than one research year, and more. And it's really important to be transparent about all of this. Even if they aren't a perfect fit for you, the mentor might know of another lab that will be. But at the same time, it's also okay if you don't know any of this yet. Hearing more about different potential mentors' labs might help you start to figure out what is and isn't important to you if you don't know already. Another important thing to think about when looking for a mentor is step studying. So obviously the STEP exams are a huge part of your third year experience, and there's a lot of uncertainty around the timing of doing these exams. We won't go into all the details about that in this video, but it's important that you inform your potential mentors that you are given a specific amount of time per the School of Medicine guidelines to study for the exam. Make sure they understand this and are okay with giving you that timeline for your project. This also comes back to the idea of having a mentor who's supportive of you and understands that you also have other obligations as a medical student aside from just doing research. So it could be helpful to mention the potential time of year you are hoping to take off for dedicated when meeting with your mentor so that you can map out how your research year might look. And based on the specifics of your particular project, there might be times in the year where it's more or less optimal for you to be gone for dedicated time. This is another component of fit, so make sure you're happy with how your mentor handles dedicated time and the specific requirements for your research so that you feel like you're comfortable with your decision for dedicated time. So finally, I want to talk a little about some few random things I wish I knew before starting third year. So one big thing is timing. So although you don't need to have your research mentor selected until the end of March of MS2 year, there are a few factors that would make you need to know your research mentor a little bit before that deadline. So one example is if you want to get a mentor approved who isn't already an approved mentor on the list. So there are specific forms to fill out to get a mentor approved who's not already on the approved mentor list. This is a really easy process to do, so don't worry about that. But the catch is that there's a committee to approve potential mentors, and they only meet once a month. So you'll need to submit your project proposal and potential mentor's name early enough for them to go over your proposal at one of their monthly meetings and have a decision back to you before the deadline to have your mentor selected. Since the official time to have a mentor approved is end of March, you might want to have this mentor selected by the end of fall semester or early spring semester of MS2 year to meet that deadline. And the study program directors are a great resource for this. They'll contact the potential mentor and present them to the third year committee for you, usually sometime in the spring of MS2 year, between January and April. Another time you might need to have things sorted out a little bit earlier is if you want to conduct your research year at another institution. The deadline for this is usually January to March of MS2 year, so you'll need to already have a potential mentor selected and project proposal before that time to be approved. So ideally you'd start looking and have everything sorted maybe fall of MS2 year. And the third time your timing might be a little different is if you want to apply for any third year scholarships. So the deadline for those are usually between December and March of MS2 year. The deadline is usually March 15th. So you'd want to also have a research mentor and project proposal ready before that timeline so that you can apply for the internal scholarships. Another component of timing I wish I knew before was IRB approval timeline. So if you're planning to do a clinical research project and want to collect data from the ground up, you'll need to get an IRB approved for your project. So IRBs can take a long time and might require many revisions before you get them approved. Until you're approved, you won't be able to start recruiting or collecting data. And since this IRB process can take months, it's usually a good idea to start this during spring semester of MS2 year with your research mentor, so that you'll ideally have the IRB approved near the start of your MS3 year. That way you'll be able to start collecting data right away or soon after, and this is something you will work on with your research mentor, so be sure to talk with them about this. And it's usually not the best idea to wait until the start of MS3 year to start the IRB process because it might take a while and then you won't be able to start data collection until later. The final thing I wish I knew about before starting third year is taking a second third year. I know this is really far in the future right now, but just know that if you end up loving your research and are really eager to do more, you can always take a second research year to continue your current project or even work on a completely new project. It's becoming more and more common for a variety of reasons to take a second research year. And you don't need to worry about that just yet, but I just thought it's something you might want to keep in mind throughout the year. Thanks for listening. Us upperclassmen are always happy to answer any questions you have about finding a research mentor, our specific projects, or anything else you'd like to know about the third year experience. So feel free to reach out to us with any questions you might have. The third year office is also incredibly accessible and eager to answer any questions. I'm wishing you all of the best of luck in finding your mentors, and I hope you all have a wonderful third year experience.